Good morning. oh, I love coffee. Anyways, oh man, wow, the country's fallen to pieces. Or it's being systematically destroyed by what I believe, and this is my belief, by fascists who have infiltrated um, our public service. Now, if you know anything about a constitutional monarchy, right, um, which is actually what Canada is, um, try that. Okay, let's try that. There we go. But yeah, no, if you understand anything about a constitutional monarchy, you'll understand that the head of state is the woman who acts as the queen or the man who acts as king. And the woman or the man represents the people and has an oath to the people because that man or woman who acts as king or queen is of this land, and the people are of the land, and the king or queen serves the people at her leisure, at his pleasure, and therefore also has an oath uh, to the people of the land um, to keep the common law and the customs of the people. Now, as we've been infiltrated by this society, it's a self-governing society called the legal society. Now, even though there's been documents put into so-called law, like the British North American Act 1867 um, and the Constitution Act 1982, Charter of Rights and Freedoms, as well as the couple of different U.S. covenants that the so-called representatives of Canada signed onto and signed into law. Uh, None of this is being kept. Um, Now, these indentures, these laws, these indentures for the corporate body are supposed to be how the mandate of the offices of the public services, which any man or woman who steps in, or let's call him a state actor, who steps in has an oath to the man or woman who acts as king or queen to keep their oath, and their oath is to the people and this land. The people and the land are one. Um, you know, your bodies come from this land, your bodies return to this land. And like I say, we have a whack of fascist infiltrators. And like, you know, I'm listening to you know, folks, you know, petitions. Man, fucking petitions. Uh, Write a letter. I was watching, um, and I know how a lot of folks feel about uh, this woman who supposedly acts. Um, oh, did I bring it down? I might have brought it down. Yeah, I think I did. But this woman that supposedly acts as a representative of certain people in Alberta. I forget her name. Don't really care at this moment. Um, but oh, what's her name? You know, everybody's hacking about her online. She acts for the Conservative Party. But you know, she's now talking about Buffalo. I think I had this up, man. Just oh, the Buffalo Declaration. Yay! So she's speaking out, but I also, like, you know, I take a look at folks like Maxime Bernier, right? And um, you know, whenever I see any man or woman who acts as anything, as any person. I also can see a man or woman who could, maybe have a change of heart. You know, some people believe in certain things, and until that belief is broken or proven to be incorrect or wrong, and people do have change of hearts. I'm not saying that this woman's having a change of heart, all right, but apparently, let's go over here. Apparently, yeah, I know. Boomers and technology. You just can't get around it these days because we're not dead yet. So, but apparently, um, you know, what's her face? You know, okay, here I'll find her face right there. Rempel. Now apparently there's 4 of them together right now. Rempel, Richards, Motts, and Burson, Vatterson. Anyways, I wonder if he's related to the Clamato folks out of Calgary. You guys do know that Clamato was created, invented in Calgary 100 years ago. I don't know where they got the clams from back then, unless it was from the rivers, which can definitely kill you. But yeah, it is what it is. But you know, of all the places to invent a clam drink, Calgary, you know, which is where I have a number of generations from. So apparently, okay, this woman, now they're starting to talk about buffalo. Now, and the funny thing is, and I was looking for it, I didn't put it up, but the other day I was watching I was watching Ezra Levant. He was interviewing this well-spoken woman who is also running for leadership within the Conservative Party. Now, we all know the Conservatives, how crooked the party is now. Bottom line, it's I don't believe it's repairable. And so, you know, without a shadow of doubt, McKay's going to be the leader of that useless, no-tooth party that doesn't really do anything for any fucking Canadian. They're not. They're useless, just useless. You know, the whole Corona thing. CBC that regulates the government, tells the government what they can do and what they can't do. The body of folks who work within that corporation, that Crown Corporation, is, you know, has been promoting discrimination just over and over and over again. They're trying right now to get their little puppet, you know, the child man or the man child, trying to get him to outlaw anybody else from talking about the news. But they're handling the coronavirus so poorly. I mean, for weeks now, we've known that the incubation period of the corona virus is up to, you know, 24 days. Now they're saying, you know, above 24 days. It's asymptomatic, so that whole incubation period, you're going to give it to everybody else that you come in contact with. And then what do we have? We have them saying now, when you recover, you are also able to contaminate your fellow man with this virus. And we 3 days on a flight crew that brought that first bunch folks to Trenton. You know, they were quarantined for like 3 days. These guys were, well, supposedly quarantined in Trenton for 14 days, but after the pictures I saw, I didn't see any quarantine there. It was just like, okay, these guys going to hang out together, and you know, don't worry about the staff because we're sure you're not contagious. The CDC was putting out defective kits. Now they fixed the kits. We're up to 10 as this morning. We're up to 10 infections that they're reporting on within the nation of Canada, from 8. It was 8 yesterday, and then it went to 9 last night. And when I clicked on refresh the Johns Hopkins map, yeah, now all of a sudden 10, and they all seem to be in British Columbia. Or not all of them. There were 3 in Ontario, so the rest were in British Columbia. They're not even showing. They're showing like Vancouver. You telling me they're only in Vancouver? Because I believe that for sure there's one in the interior of BC, but they won't say where. So hey, don't worry about it, guys. Like, we're just not going to tell you what's going on because you're not smart enough, adult enough, man enough, woman enough to handle the truth, and therefore, as your government, your shadow government at CBC, we're not going to bother investigating any of this or letting anybody know what's going on. We'll just, we'll give you some general ideas. Somebody's got it. Somebody has mild symptoms. What a crock of shit. China come out and said this 70-year-old, and this is a few days ago too. They're saying that this medicine, pharmaceuticals that were designed 70 years ago to fight malaria, seems to help fight the coronavirus. It doesn't cure it, right? But they say it seems to help. Yet we don't hear any reports of that from the Crown-controlled media. These people are fascists and traitors. I don't know what their wish is. Are they going to keep themselves separate from folks, from the people? I believe they will. I believe they'll probably take private cars from point A to point B to their studios. I believe that they won't be in the. Well, you know what? When do you see CBC in the public? Maybe during the election when they were getting free poutine from their puppet, the man-child. This is bad. And this is not what our forefathers sacrificed for. We didn't sacrifice, and our forefathers didn't sacrifice. And when I talk about our forefathers, I'm talking about all of us. Whether your people were here for 2,000 years, whether your people came over in the early 1600s from China, whether you are Viking descendants that just happened to make it from the 12th century, because don't forget the global warming of the 12th century allowed the Vikings to set up farms and stuff on the tip of Greenland for almost 200 years until the ice flow started to build back up again and the earth was cooling down and building more glaciers. But we also know that they were also on this continent, on this land as well. Did they all die off? Or because depending on the tribe, the nation, and the clan of the peoples that were here for a very long time, there was a lot of, like with a lot of tribes, a lot of humanity involved, something they recognized, which is why they also give thanks. I mean, there was a lot of war going on between different nations on the land, and so yeah, so there's some pretty tough stuff going on between different nations and stuff, which is why the nations were built up of the clans, and the clans made the tribes, and so on and so forth. And I listened to that lovely woman, the matriarch for the Wet'suwet'en, or whatever they're called, and I don't mean to insult the actual Bear Clan or anything like that, or the tribe, but you have a rogue inherited chief. Now, how he became a inherited chief, did he just inherit it? Or did he prove himself as a chief, to become a chief as a young man? But anyways, if he did prove himself, then why are the elders being disrespected of that clan? And why is the clan mother being disrespected? And why are the clan elders being disrespected? Is this man just another shill that's being paid off by Tides Foundation, Suzuki Foundation, the rest of those foundations? Apparently, there's a whole list of foundations that have put over $1 billion aside to finance anybody that'll sell out their own people for the destruction of this nation. So, and when I look at our Indian cousins, I see part of our nation. I believe, they have the customs of their people, which are being disrespected. So here you got the government, the public service disrespecting the customs of our Indian cousins 100 years ago with the Indian Act, forcing them into, a pseudo democracy. Okay, so the people agreed to it, so they got their pseudo democracy, but then they also have the customs of their people, and now the customs of their people are being disintegrated by rogue operatives, that may have a title as a hereditary chief, but is he worthy to be the hereditary chief? And the elders of the Bear Clan, and then they're disrespecting their dress, and the dress is being used for political propaganda, and it's just amazing to see how elders all the way around of this land are being disrespected. So not just our native cousins, but also the way anyone identifies as one of this nation. Basically the boomers have been put into a place of treason, because we believe in the nation that our forefathers built, and freedom and rights are property. So freedom, rights, property of every man, every woman on this land needs to be respected, and it is all being disrespected. And their boss, the head of the state, head of state, that's what you call this actor, which would be the man who acts as king, or the woman who acts as queen. So the head of state is now being labeled as a criminal, which I will show you fairly quickly. But first, I'd like to talk about this guy. James Peter Robertson. He's one of the 70 men that received the Victoria Cross. So he was a gallant man. He died over there to fighting fascists. Now, I realize that the color of this man's skin, or the tone of this man's skin, doesn't fit a narrative as a hero to the CBC today, or to the treasonous actors within our public service. If this man was alive today, this man would definitely be treated poorly, and by his public service and those who suck off the trough to act as public agencies. So now this guy has a pretty cool story. He did die in France while he was saving others. So anyways, here's another guy that attacked the pillbox. Let's see if we got the story down here. Okay, so Pete, right? He dashed into opening on the flank. Now these guys are, there's a whack of these pillboxes, and the Canadians were just getting shot to shit. And so he what he did was he rushed them under fire. Okay, so usually these things were on hills, these pillboxes, and you're down in a ditch. Okay, the fascists had all their barbed wire. This is razor wire, guys. This isn't like, you know, a farmer's fence. This is razor wire. And it touches you, it cuts you open, man. It's razor sharp, like they would have on a you know, a high security prison. So, you know, they're in the ditch, and so what this guy, he just he gets sick of the shit and being shot at and stuff, and you know, like nobody could do anything. Anybody that stuck their head up was pretty much getting blasted by the fascists. So what he did was he dashed to an opening on the flank, and he rushed the machine gun. Okay, so there's a man with a machine gun shooting at you, and this guy's running at it. All right, this is I know this man would be an enemy of the state today because he doesn't fit the you know, the overview of Omar Khadr, the hero of Canada, the hero of the fascists that have infiltrated our public service. And so this is why he didn't get 10 million bucks. Well, he wouldn't have got 10 million bucks anyways, because he died serving you and I, because you and I called this man to fight fascism. We called this man to war. We called this man to stand up and be counted on our behalf. Well, I wasn't even alive then. Yeah, well, guess what? It is still, his death, his blood is still something you should be carrying on your shoulders, as well as I should. And the fact that you don't give a shit just shows that you're just another fucking shill and not a member of the nation. And you guys all know what I mean by you, all right? So sometimes I mean you as in you, and sometimes I mean you as in the literal form with joiner, you. But I try to make it so anybody that ever listens to me can figure out the difference between you and you, or whether you're just a fucking you. And you can go whatever. Anyway, so okay, so this guy, he rushes right up towards his. I don't know if this was the pillbox, and I believe this was just a gunner. And so there was, you know, you got all your guys in your hole, and you got your gunner, right? And you got guys feeding ammo to the gun, especially back then. And if you didn't feed the gun, it would jam up. And the other guys are in the fucking hole, so they're probably on a hill. They're looking down. There's the Canadians, and they're fucking picking off everybody they can see. Now, don't forget. I mean, this is a solid line of fascist soldiers. So he just gets tired of this shit, and he runs up, and he saw an opening on their flank, and he rushed the machine gun, and jumps in the fucking hole, and he, you know, right here, after a desperate struggle with the crew, killed 4, and then turned the gun on the remainder, who were overcome by his fierceness of his onslaught, and running towards their own lines. His gallant work enabled the platoon to advance. He inflicted many more casualties among the enemy, and then carrying the captured machine gun, he led his platoon to the final objective. He there selected an excellent position and got the gun into action. And now this is still a fascist machine gun, firing on the retreating enemy, who by this time were quite demoralized by the fire brought to bear on them. Now you got to remember, our guys in the First World War did not give the enemy quarter, as a rule. As a rule, you know, you fucked with us, we're here, and we're going to finish it, and so you're dead. You know, simple as that. There was no quarter. There was no, you know, for the most part, taking prisoners. And like I said before, this is how we earned the name the Shock Troopers. That was us. We always did give women and children a way out. It's been a Canadian thing. I mean, not like Omar Khadr, and his family that used women and children as shields, and so on and so forth. I mean, two two totally different customs. All right, two totally different morals. Two totally different manner of mankind. Okay, one will do anything to destroy, and they don't give a fuck who they use, including bum-fucking little boys up the ass that are happen to be orphans, which is okay by their law, apparently. And so, anyways, to make long story short, um, well, I'll just during the consolidation, Robertson most determined use of the machine gun kept down the fire of the enemy snipers. His courage and his coolness cheered his comrades and inspired them to the finest efforts. Later, when two of our snipers were badly wounded in the front of our trench, uh, he ran out to grab them, and he got the first one to safety because they weren't dead yet. And as he was carrying the second one to safety, I think he did get him to safety, the second sniper, he was shot down dead. All right, this is the manner of mankind that those of us who identify as, within this nation of Canada, as man, this is the type of man or woman that built this country, that put us where we are today. Don't forget, the public service here has been the biggest contributor to almost all failings of this nation. And Canada as a de facto government, these actors, they think they own you now. They've got you all, trapped into some kind of person that they created, that was created by the establishment, and therefore they're going to keep you in servitude to that person, whatever means they can, whatever legal means they can, whatever legal loophole the fascists within the establishment can keep you as a person under the thumb in servitude and a slave. This is what they wish to do. This way they are enslaving no man. And you volunteered to act as that person, that creation of the corporate body politic. So anyways, that man looks pretty cool. You look at his eyes, and yeah, he's like, hey man, what's happening, right? Yeah, he looks pretty cool. Yeah, so there again, this would be an enemy of the state, declared by the fascists that have infiltrated our public service, right? So let's a lot of guys are talking about petitions again, and they're looking at folks to do things for them. Like, you can hack on Michelle Rempel all you wish, but at the same time, you shouldn't expect Michelle Rempel to do anything for you. You're supposed to do it for yourself. Okay, you and I. Okay, so you and I. It's up to us what we need to do for ourselves and for this nation, to keep this nation strong and free. And those are not just words, and there's a price to pay for freedom. But a little can go a long ways. And this is why I'm hacking about these petitions as a main, like, okay, take just as a main thing. Well, I signed a petition, so I took out what 2.2 seconds out of my life, and I signed this online petition. So it's one piece of paper. You can have 100,000 fucking signatures on it. It's one piece of paper. It may go somewhere, or it may appear to go somewhere, um, but there's always the games of those public representatives, the fascists that have infiltrated public agencies, or agencies that operate on the public's behalf, as well as public servants. And so, you want to sign a petition, go ahead. But what's to stop you from sitting down for half an hour, putting your thoughts on paper over a single subject, and mailing the letter off to the man or woman who claims to act as your public servant within your area? Now, when I was watching Rempel, and I almost never do, but when I was watching this thing, I was showing you guys that brought me to this Buffalo site, and those four government actors. All right, so they'd be statutory creatures, those government actors. I'm watching this and I'm going, okay, all right, well, somebody's making a first step, so I'm not going to hack on the woman. I'm going to, give her whatever, whatever room she needs to go ahead and prove herself on this matter. But, when she was talking, she's sitting there and she's holding a whole pile of emails that she had to read. Now, by Canadian tradition, Canadian law, when you write a public representative a letter, they are damn well supposed to read it and respond to it. And I've talked about this before. Now, if you write to them as one of mankind, they have a duty and obligation, responsibility to write you back. If you write to them as a disgruntled citizen, or one of those persons under the creation of this corporate body politic, and their title's higher than yours, so they don't really need to respond to you. And this is what happens. And if a public actor doesn't respond to their fellow man or fellow woman, so they're in dishonor. And so I don't write, the most honorable blah, 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 blah of blah, blah, blah. I write to the man or woman who acts as, and I believe you are the man or woman who acts as. Therefore, this is the wish of I to put to you, right? What the fuck's going on over there? And why are you destroying this nation? Systematically destroying the nation in less than 5 years, man. 5 years. 5 years ago, everyone was going to work. We were all looking at the future. We were developing our resources. Now, don't forget, 30 years ago was the ultimate beginning of the destruction of manufacturing on this land within this nation. And it all started with Mulrooney's free trade. So what he did was, there used to be a 13% manufacturer tax on all goods that were manufactured. And this kind of manufacturing tax and so on would go, like any excise tax, is supposed to go to pay for the armies, okay, for the protection of this nation. And anyways, so Mulrooney, he turned around and he decided to go free trade, and then he got rid of the 13% manufacturing tax, came out with the 5% GST, and so instead of putting that tax on the shoulders of the manufacturers, he put it on the shoulders of every man and woman that does wish to purchase property from somebody else. So, Craig Chan brought it even further. It's to tax necessities on this land is against the law. All right, the government oversteps. These state actors overstep when they start taxing necessities. So, we did make allowance for gas tax, just for the simple fact that it was to support and building of the roads. Not, it's been totally abused ever since. Of course, now they're taxing you on basic stuff as natural gas. They're taxing you on hydro, any kind of power. It's just tax, tax, tax with every fucking excuse. And this is wrong. Okay, this is manipulation. This is how the legal society, or attorneys, that figure this shit out, turn things around. Is it not reasonable to say? Is it not reasonable to say? Is it not reasonable to say? Oh, candy's bad for kids' teeth, so therefore we need to tax kids' teeth. It's just like tax candy. BC just brought out a new one. They're taxing anything with bubbles in it, whether it's a sugar soft drink, anything like water with bubbles. Okay, soda water is now being taxed as well. I mean, these are all just excuses. We have allowed these people, and we have not put any limitations on our public servants on their spending habits. This is to our demise, and this is what we need to do. We need to put limits on any actions from any state actor. Now, getting back to this petition stuff, okay, good, they get a goddamn position. Somebody might pick it up. It might get recognized. It might go somewhere. But on top of the position, it's time to write letters. And like I said the other day, at the little protest that Mark was at, okay, so there's 25 people. That can easily turn into like 75 letters. Because say you're writing about an issue, okay, and you're concerned that the public service is dropping the ball. So you write, say, to the man or woman who acts as a state actor for your area, that claims to represent the people, that claims to present the people by way of his voice, his actions. So you do that, but then what you do is then you write a letter to, say it's over coronavirus, and then you write a letter to the man or woman who acts as the health minister, and you say, I've written my MP about this, see attached, and now here. You need to buck up on this deal. And then you find another state actor, another public servant that should have some kind of clue in what's going on, or should have some kind of authority over the persons under them that pertains to the same kind of thing. And then so with my first letter, I have it, and then I write down, okay, I CC'd this. I said, okay, let's just go with 2 or 3, okay? So I wrote to one man or woman, and I CC'd that letter to another man or woman, and which I also CC'd, say, to a third man or woman. So all state actors, all public servants. But I took the letter that I wrote to him, I CC'd it to him and him, but I also took the letter I wrote to him, I CC'd it to him and him. Okay, and then I also took the letter I wrote to him and I CC'd it to him and him. Now we have exponential growth. So out of one man, what did I come up to? 1, 2, 3, 4, like 9 letters. Okay, 9 letters. Now, the time it took me to write those letters, I can never replace again in my life. But when they outlaw free speech, when the fascists that have infiltrated our public service outlaw freedom of movement, free speech, what you can eat, what you can say, what you can see, what you can wear, so on and so forth. That's where the issue is. Sorry, the phone's ringing. Okay, so let's just get to this quickly. All right. So this is a good letter that I would write to the man or woman who acts as king or queen, the head of state. Okay, the man or woman who acts as head of state. And don't forget that the crown on top of their head is not the same as the inner city of London, which is the sovereign corporate state, also known as the Crown. Okay, or Crown Corporation. All right. So I get down here. All right. So the fascists that have infiltrated our public service. Now, when you sign up for the army, all right, when you sign up for the armed forces, I think they're going to dump this too, but it's our tradition to sign in blue ink to show that there is one of mankind that's alive. The blue ink represents, uh, mankind alive. And this is to show that the man did volunteer to act in servitude of the king or queen. Very important. When you join the armed forces, you are not serving the man child. You are serving the nation by backing up the head of state, which is a man or woman who has an oath to the people of this land. Now, traditionally, we allow the prime minister, whatever, to run our military, let's say. But so this general, this man who has an oath to the head of state, to the man or woman acts king or queen, he comes out with this intelligence paper. All right, so this would be considered traitorous, and here's why. Okay, I don't even know. I've never met a KKK within this nation. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I have never met KKK. I think it's in the dreams of those each man and woman that works at the Communist Broadcasting Corporation, the Crown Broadcasting Corporation. I think it's their dream to create some kind of white supremacy so they can push a discrimination narrative, which they have been on and on and on and on. These are fascists that operate from your hard labor, from your blood, sweat, and tears, that you every day sacrifice so that you can feed your family, so that you can better educate yourselves, so that you as in everyone can get ahead and work towards a better and brighter future for everyone. Um, so you got your neo-Nazis. I haven't met any neo-Nazis ever on this land. Man, I biked around this land um, my whole life. I moved around this land being the son of a soldier. Never was allowed to live on base. We always lived in inner cities everywhere, but uh, I've never ever met a neo-Nazi on this land. Okay, racist skinheads. I think I've seen a couple of those guys. Um, I think that racist skinhead thing, but I think you'll find that more in across the pond. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't really met too many. Um, because I see a lot of those of mankind that operate as peace officers, police officers, policy enforcement officers that are skinheads. I see a lot wearing uniforms that are skinheads, but where they have no hair, they shave it off. It's probably to keep their DNA from being picked up from crooked. Who knows? Who knows why you see these big bald-headed folks in uniforms? But would they be the racist skinheads? I don't know. I don't really know any. Now, Christian identity. Now here's where the treason comes in. All right, this man who signed in blue ink to become a Queen's man, he has put down here that the Queen is now enemy of the state. Okay. Now the Queen is the head of the Christian Church, the Church of England, which is the Protestant Christian Church. She is the keeper of the faith. This is treasonous. For him to come out and do this is fucking treasonous. All right, then there's anti-Islam. I don't understand. Islam is an ideology. It's, I don't understand why anybody who doesn't, eat up this Islam ideology is an enemy of the state. What does Islam have to do with this nation? How many native Islamists are there on this nation? How did Islam contribute to this nation and the building of what could have been and what may have become a great nation? You know, I mean, after the government and after those who operate in public service, divided our native cousins and society, us as society, this as a nation, purposely intervened with their bad Indian Act and all their bad actors, all the crimes that were committed by way of public service towards our native cousins. When did Islam ever build this nation? What do they have to do with this nation? We're taking folks that have the Muslim religion, we're taking them in and saving them from the destruction that's happening over in what we used to call the Mediterranean. I think it's called East Asia now. I've seen it lately, or North Africa, which all that area used to be the Mediterranean. But we went to Afghanistan to help free poor folks, women and children alike, from all kinds of atrocities and human rights crimes. And now we're shitting on those of us that we all called on to go over there to help out. And now we are holding war criminals on pedestals, and we are shitting on the man and the woman that you and I did call to battle. So I don't understand this anti-Islam thing. They've got nothing to do with this nation as far as the building of this nation. This is a fairly new, like I had these friends, older couple, older than me, probably, let's say 10 years at least. They had immigrated to Canada from Lebanon. Lebanon used to be quite a cool place before the war broke out. When they declared war on Israel and Israel fought back, I'm not going to get into that shit, but he was Muslim, she was Christian, and they had to flee because they fell in love. And over at the time, it was not a good thing. You would be killed basically. And they came to Canada for peace, raised their daughter in peace. Very good folks. I was honored to know them. But this anti-Islam thing, wait, you're going to say that any man or woman of this land, of this nation, because they don't agree with the Islam ideology, that we're now enemy of the states, or an enemy of the state? Anti-immigration. Hang on, guys. That is so general. I am totally anti-mass immigration. You can't just flood the streets of this nation with people from nowhere and from everywhere. The public service, first off, has shown that they're not even capable to put people up. We have homeless all over the goddamn place. Young ones cannot afford to even look at getting their own home. And so what? Were you going to send an agency in to take the homes of those old stock Canadians, those of this nation, throw them on the streets so that you can fit your new mass immigration? I mean, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. But just a Christian identity, that's a good reason to write the man or woman who acts as queen. Cultural protection. So there again, these guys are attacking, the man or woman acts as king and queen, or king or queen, because they have an oath to keep the common law and the, you know, basically the culture of the people, all right, the customs of the people, the way of the people. Um, so there they are also. So you know, I got two treasonous acts right here. All right, from a man who swore to the head of state of this nation. Free man on the land. I don't even know what that is. You know, these guys they profile anybody they wish as a free man on the land. It's like calling somebody a racist. Just automatically, you're racist. You're a racist. You're a racist, and all of a sudden you're profiled as a racist. There's no evidence or proof, you know, of it or anything else. And this is just like bullshit. You know, it's almost like Butts wrote this thing up and not, you know, a general of the armed forces allowed this document to be written up. That's unfucking believable. Sovereign citizens. Now, I have a problem with sovereign citizens. Not any man or woman as an individual, as a sovereign like you know that you know believes in sovereign citizens. Okay, but you are only sovereign over that which you create. And I already got yelled at for this before. I was chatting on one of the live feeds, and but you know, people, we're not paying attention to our words. And you know, a citizen is a creation of the corporate body. It's a creation of the public service. It's a creation of the you know. The de facto government, and so if you wish to be seen as a citizen, you identify as that person. There's no way you can be sovereign because you didn't create citizen. Okay, Canada is sovereign over citizens because it's a creation of the corporate body politic. So sovereign citizens doesn't even make sense. And what's this freemen? Wasn't it free man on the land? Free men on the land. Free men. Well, you do know that the least of man is greater than the greatest of men. I sure hope you understand that. All right. So, okay. Fuck, this is crazy, man, coming from a general. Who the fuck put this guy? Like, how did he ever get there with this kind of stuff? Was he some kind of ass kisser that kissed his way up the ranks? You know, some poser, some yes man, you know, some shill. I mean, how could a general of this nation that serves the head of state, known as the king or queen, come out and start making their boss, the head of state that they have an oath to, that they signed in blood, basically, you know, signing in blue, come out and declare that the head of state is an enemy of the state, you know? So you don't agree in abortion. So because you have the free will to look at something differently than what the Communist Broadcasting Corporation is putting out, the narrative they put out, because you don't agree, that you believe life begins at conception, that you believe at least there should be some kind of limitations, you know, just because of the sanctity of life, all of a sudden you're enemy of the state. Anti-Semitism. So Semitics would be, you know, all those, I believe this is the way it works, but all those who are descendants of Abraham. Okay, so that would be what you guys call Jews, the Hebrew nation, as well as the Arabs, the Arab nation, or nations. So they're cousins, they're half brothers, right? And so they're related. They've had a family feud going on for a long time. I don't think we should interfere with any family feuds going on there. And don't forget that United Emirate, like Arabia, all right, is a crown de facto government as well. It's a crown corporation, and so is Israel, and so is Canada. So I just thought I'd throw that in. Anti-indigenous. What the fuck is anti-indigenous? Like, really? Does anyone know any self-respecting native man or woman that runs around calling themselves indigenous. Indigenous. I hate to even break down that fucking word. I don't even want to break down that word, anti-indigenous. Who the fuck is anti-indigenous? I don't know anybody that if anti-indigenous means somebody who's against one of our native cousins. I really don't know anybody that I don't know anybody that's against. I do see that this heretical chief, which I don't know if he even earned the spot, is disrespecting his elders and the clan mothers against their traditions, their customs, and the way of their people. I do see that. So also saw that he's a shill. He's a paid off corporate entity like everybody else, but the Communist Broadcasting Corporation will not report any of that shit. It's just terrible. Conspiracy theorists. Well, why? Why are conspiracy theorists an enemy of the state? I mean, isn't everything a theory until it's proven to be fact? Like if you have an idea and you're thinking about something, I don't know, the theory of gravity or cam theory for V8 or V twin, or is it not a theory until it's proven? So conspiracy, that's such a general thing, and to make people an enemy of the state because they have a conspiracy theory doesn't even make sense, because we have the freedom of thought. We have the freedom. I mean, it's in us. It's what makes us mankind. Freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom to act on what we believe to be true, as long as we don't trespass upon our fellow man. Anti-LGBTQ2. You guys are fucked. You just fucked. Okay, so where if I was to write a letter to say Elizabeth, the woman I believe does act as queen. Okay, white nationalism. I don't even get that white nationalism. I don't get that. I see a lot of discrimination against anybody with lighter colored skin, coming from an agency, the Communist Broadcasting Corporation, which we are forced to pay, which we need to stop paying. We need to stop paying. They don't present the facts. They don't do any investigative journalism on anything, like, let's say, coronavirus, the government corona part 2, I call it. What are they doing? What are they doing to warn people, to show people how to prepare just in case? Nothing. And radical traditionalists. So what? You're a traditionalist. You believe in the traditions of this nation. You believe in the traditions of your people. Like what? How do you identify? Who identifies radical? Who decides what's radical? It's crazy. So, okay, Christian identity, I believe, cultural protection, where the banner woman acts as, well, let's say the woman acts as queen. She has an oath to our cultural protection, our Christian identity, and what else? Well, would she be considered also a radical traditionalist? Because everything when she acts as queen, as that person, as head of state, she acts within the traditions. So, there you go. I mean, there you have it. So these guys. So, I mean, if I was to write a letter to the woman I believe acts as queen, so what I would do, I was just listening to the answering machine there. So what I would do is I'd say, hey, yeah, hi Elizabeth. I hope this letter finds you well, or this, you know, I hope you're well. Thank you for your service, as I believe you are the woman who does act as head of state, the Queen of Canada. Don't forget, she was also inaugurated as the first Queen of Canada. Nobody else was ever King or Queen of Canada. Her. And I can hear, people that listen to Doug Ford saying, illegitimate. Okay, but still, I would write this woman a letter and say, hey, look, I believe there are certain individuals that operate under your authority that have sworn an oath to your position as head of state that are now that now wish to declare you an enemy of the state. See attached. Now, thank you for your service. Would be probably your fellow man Al. Okay, that's how I would qualify my autograph. Now, could you imagine? Like, there's a lot of people here that love that whole idea of the Queen. I see no problem with a constitutional monarchy. That's the nation that we have. It's a constitutional monarchy. And I see no issue with that whatsoever. I believe that the idea behind it was to structure it in a way for, for freedom, to keep the traditions, the customs of the people of highest regard on this land, of law on this land, and the common law, which is the fact that, like, as this woman who acts as queen does also know that God created man and man created governments, and so she knows that she is a public servant. She knows that when she acts as head of state, she is the head public servant of this land. And so she's got some shills. I believe these people to be fascists. I believe them to be sellouts and traitors. There's no way you can come out with a document like this and not be a traitor to the people, and not be a traitor to your boss that you identify as. You can't be identified as a general with not having, the head of state as your boss. That's it, and that's all. So this is just a wonderful document that shows the traitorous concepts of those in our public service and those in the service of the king or queen. Okay, those who act as king and queen, and I think there should be a concern, and it would be nice to see, hey, you want to do a petition and get thousands of signatures on a petition. That's fine. Well, take that. Like, okay, so if I was to write a letter to the Queen and say something like I just said, then what I would do is I would also write the man or woman, the man-child that acts as prime minister, and I would write the head of the military, which is the clown that allowed this to be drawn up, and who else? CSIS, maybe even the RCMP, just to let them all know that, hey, there's a traitor here. There's a traitor here. Somebody is attacking the head of state here, and it needs to be stopped. And so this is what I sent the head of state, and I'm just putting you on notice. And then there again, CC back and forth to everybody so that everybody's a witness. All right. I mean, there's nothing to hide when you act in honor. When a man or a woman acts in honor, why should there be anything to hide? If you fear your public servants, at this point, how far down the pike are we? All right. So obviously, not much of mankind seems to stand up around here, because the fascists are just being blatant now, and you know, folks who work at CBC are, you know, telling the man-child that he has to outlaw citizen journalism. So we, you know, are able to have, you know, dictatorship, you know, so we can have a Chinese state type of journalism that only says, you know, sweet, nice things. But I mean, these people of the mainstream media are, I believe, and this is my belief, are enemies of the state, are enemies of every man and woman of this land, of this nation, and doing the best they can to create chaos within this nation. I mean, these fascists that have taken over a public service are creating chaos in many, many ways. They're using. Listen, people are losing faith in the institutions. Now, we're up to 10 people. Oh, let me bring that up just quickly. What did I do wrong? What's going on here? Okay, we got that. How come when I go here, I only get that? Where's the rest of my... Oh, it's Boomer in control. Okay, folks, here you have it. Here we have it. So, oh yeah, everything was slow this morning. Let's see if we can refresh this. So last night I went to bed. We had 8 cases within Canada. We know the coronavirus does spread even after you recover. We know it spreads almost up to 30 days. They say up to 27 days for sure now, or can spread up to 27 days for sure. Excuse me. Before you show any symptoms, Canada, the public service here is lackadaisical, and their quarantine. They're lackadaisical on all the measures taken. The Communist Broadcasting properly about this to warn folks so that we can actually prepare, so we don't end up in more chaos than this public service has put us into over a short 5 years. All right, like even 5 years ago, before this man-child decided to, you know, proclaim himself king or whatever the fuck he thinks he is. Even 5 years ago, we needed to work on debt. We needed to keep our infrastructure, which has been falling apart. We needed to rein in on public service spending. These entitled folks, and the entitled ones are all those who operate under title. So they don't come with creed, color, anything like that. It's just whoever, you know, whoever is operating under title within this nation are entitled, and they don't believe they have to or need to answer. And if you try to hold them to account, you'll just get locked out of the courtroom, just like that man did in Ontario. So I wonder if anybody told him to put a statutory declaration in there that he was locked out of the room and he was there on time. Or I wonder also if the man-child just went for summary conviction, and therefore, like I said before, it goes back to the man or woman acts as AG, who decides whether to just stay the case or not. So we'll never know without full disclosure. And all these cases are public. The public has a right to know. The public has a right to know on all these cases. More and more, and you can see this, like folks are hiding behind titles and hiding. Now, back in the old days, if you were somebody who went around and robbed people and so on, robbed banks, these were folks that were hoods. And that's where, in the old-timey talk, a hood was criminal. And now we have a legal hood going on, and that are covering their faces, hiding behind titles, and these administrative hearings that are going on over other folks' property. But these folks can't stand up as their right, and as a right of property, because they don't know it's property. They think it's something called children, some kind of legal definition of their property that somebody else defined for them. That's the other thing. You might define property as child, okay, but do you have a claim on said property? Because I defined property as property, that which is proper to I, exclusive to all others. And so what claim do you have? What higher claim do you have on the property to which I author to turn around and relabel said property children? Like, who the fuck do you think you are? And this, my friends, is how a common law nation is supposed to operate. Okay, nothing's loading up here. Like this morning, I got here. It was 10 cases. It went to 9, and then yesterday night it went to 9, and then this morning I clicked on it, said 9. I refreshed it. Boom, went to 10. I went to refresh it again, and it's doesn't. I guess they're redoing the information on it. I mean, not just Iran, Italy, South Korea, just hit overnight, man. It's just crazy. I'll try again. Okay, let's see what happens. Now, of course, being in the country, you don't receive the internet service that all the fancy city folks do, which is fine. It just teaches you patience. Learning OBS taught me some more patience, that's for sure. And then having to redo something like 4 times. So I wasn't near as in depth as I was when I did the critique on Ezra's Little Clown Show, as I was the first time I did it, or the second time I did it. But then I looked at it and went, you know what? There's no reason really to go into too many fucking details. And the basic thing is, and my basic idea was just to put it, to bring it to the attention of my fellow man, that you've got you got 2 guys here. Between them, they have 60 years of experience, and because you get away with acting like the fool or the clown or whatever, you may be very, very good at what you do, but investigating potential illegal acts is not your forte, that you don't have 30 years experience, and then you're standing against somebody, 2 guys that have between them 60 years experience. I don't doubt the fact that those each man has worked with each other before. They seem to have their act down. Totally truthful, and so it didn't take long to show where Ezra's little antics just it may not sink them totally, but now it gives them a position to maintain on Ezra that no, if Rebel News Limited is operating as a third-party advertiser and not just a publisher of a book, well, then hey, you just broke the fucking law because you didn't register as a third-party advertising. for the election, of course, somebody called them and said, "Hey, look at this. See what you can get on this guy. You know, see what you can get on this guy, because we can't have independent media around here. Nope, no way. We have to get rid of that crap. Get rid of those guys. How dare they?" So, yeah, it's just Johns Hopkins is not loading up for us. Okay, well, it was 10 this morning and flicked right in front of my face. So I don't know what's going on. If they're just adding all the new figures, or I don't know what's going on. What's that? Doesn't tell me what that is. What's that? What's that? What's that? Oh, so here's something that will offend all those folks that hate seeing different tones or pigments of skin in one area, but I thought this was pretty cool here. I love it. I love it. Um, but where is that thing there? So now, where did those guys screw up? Well, you can't, you can't have just folks getting along. You can't have folks just working together. You can't have folks just respecting each other because you agree that they might be a man or a woman of honor. No, no, no. There has to be some discrimination in there, right? How would CBC promote this? How tough has it been? You know, being a drummer of color and being under the authority of your lead guitarist who happens to be white, who is not a lesbian or any kind of identifiable LGBTQ2 or who doesn't also identify as black. So you must have been under a lot of pressure and under this person's dictatorship within the band. How did you ever end up in that type of situation? And do you see, folks, they're at a barbecue and they're getting along. Ooh, ooh, that's what Okay, that's stateside, but isn't that what this nation's supposed to be about? Like I say, I've been to a few powwows, and each time I am threatened. But at the same time, and one thing that wasn't explained to me, that the powwow was created somewhere in the 1800s as nations got together, tribes got together, and different nations got together to finally fight back, which was a little too late at the time. And it was pretty much put together on the state side. So, but whatever. I always respect a man or a woman for who they are, not what they are. And these fascists that have infiltrated our public service, they're all whats. Okay, they all go by whats. They all hide behind titles. You and I don't identify as mankind. You and I identify as persons and creations of the state instead of the creators of the state, instead of the creation of our maker, which is not the state. The state was created by mankind to put together a nation where everyone can stand, where everyone is free, where everyone property is protected and respected. I don't know if I mentioned this. Trudeau came out. I can't find the clip right now. I haven't looked for it, but he came out and I saw a clip. He goes, "Well, Canadians don't have property rights." Dude. Maybe your Canadians don't have property rights, but every man and woman on this land has property rights. Fascism, man-child, the group. I mean, when I was doing that other film there and that poster of the Libranos was up across, do you see those faces? That is, I believe, that is the face, those are the faces of fascism. Those are the ones going to finish destroying the country. And like I say, we're 5 years into these folks, and what have they done so far? How do you like them so far, folks? Hey, what a great and wonderful nation we have. Yep, being ripped down, chaos everywhere, and now Corona. I wonder if that map came up yet. Let's see here. Hey, look at that man's face, huh? Look at those eyes. That guy's cool. He's a cool cucumber. Or was. I don't know if his body made it home. If he was buried on the other side of the ocean. But there's a man who selflessly gave his life for his fellow man. and his comrades on your behalf. On your behalf. Now he would be considered an enemy of the state, I believe. Yeah, I don't know what not fully configured means. So maybe they're just reconfiguring everything and they haven't got around to it yet. So there we go. Huge outbreak. Remember that those who have carried the coronavirus for a lengthy period of time without showing any symptoms have been spreading it the whole time. So let's just call it a month, because 2 weeks ago when we found this out, or 2.5 weeks ago when we found this out, that it was 24 days, not 14 days. As a man or a woman, sworn to public service, I would immediately called for 30-day quarantines and got a handle on this immediately. I would have shut down all air travel, I think, within the whole nation. To shut it all down. Nobody can come, nobody can go. I would have those folks, those peace officers. I have the known borders where people are sneaking across. They're coming across illegally. I would have had maybe guys with guns there, not to shoot anybody, but to shoot at their feet and tell them to go back, hop their cab and get back to where they came from. At this time, the border is closed. I believe there would have been, and everybody would have, everyone would have yelled, right? You can't do this. You can't do this. This is that. Blah blah blah. Tyranny. The end of the world. But at the same time, then we could have just, okay, anything that is happening within this nation at this time, let's go trace it out and find the folks and get them into the hospital, get them in quarantine, proper quarantine, not in a group session in a hangar at Trenton Airport. That's, yeah, I like, these people just don't give a shit about you or I. They just wish to control everyone. That's what I believe, and that's what I see. And I haven't seen any different. I wonder if it was CBC that came on to Mr. To Elections Canada to look for the loophole to go after Rebel News Network, because they didn't go after Ezra, And why would, honestly, why would anyone that serves this nation, that serves the public, that is a public servant, why would they write up such a thing? Why would they write up? What is Islam to Canada? We are, it's a total different ideology than Canada. Granted, there's lots of folks that worship God through Muhammad, right? But and more now. I mean, we've been bringing them in. We went over there to rescue a lot of Muslims, women and children, from totalitarian folks. And granted, of course, we're going to bring some home for refuge. But what is with this? What is this? I think tomorrow morning I'm going to sit down and write a letter to Elizabeth and just to see what she says about it. And I'll show you the letter. And remember, anytime you write anything up, if you wish to print it up, that's fine. But always attach your handwritten document with the typed up document, because only those of mankind can write. Okay, I print. Okay, I print. That way there's, no discrepancy on, everybody has their own style of handwriting. Printing's pretty straight up and to the point. So maybe tomorrow this afternoon, have to write something up for a buddy of mine. But yeah, we'll see what happens here. So that is that for that. And of course, where is... Yeah, that was pretty good. Buffalo Declaration, eh? Isn't that fucked up? Boomer. Oh, here's something. So we got this guy here, right? So I'll end it with this, but look at this man here, all right? I would imagine when he was fighting the fascists in the trenches, gave his life to save 2 other lives, and put his life at risk to save his whole platoon. I would imagine he might have been thinking about this. This is very Canadian. Now, this is an old generation station that, some fucking idiot shut down in Ontario. Of course they did. But I imagine this is what would be on his heart and on his mind for the future of his descendants, if he was to have any, or the future of, say, his brothers or sisters, his nieces, his nephews, his cousins. I would imagine this would represent or present to a man's heart. I wonder if he even ever thought about this. I hope they don't mind me using this or putting it up. I don't mind.
Welcome to the herd, and who has never been to a choir session before?
And believe it or not, we're talking about TO. Just a year only into Trudeau's mandate, the man-child's mandate.
Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Rufus Wainwright.
Could these folks, as nationalists, be considered enemies of the state? Okay. Now, as far as as far as the fascists that have infiltrated our public service goes, you know, why are these folks allowed to gather without a permit? And how dare they not be, um, you know, more racially diverse, right? Because, you know, you have to be more racially diverse. Obviously, these must be some kind of white supremacist group, just for the simple fact that under this document that was drawn up by a general, or those fascists have infiltrated our public service, these guys would actually be under the Christian identity, because hallelujah actually means praise the Lord. Like, so when you say hallelujah, you're saying praise the Lord. So definitely they're right there in the white supremacy. Cultural protection. They were singing a song and lyrics that was created by a man who was a Canadian nationalist. All right, someone of this nation that identified as a man of this nation. So that's two strikes against them. All right. And of course, they must be anti-immigration because there wasn't enough racial diversity in there, right? And we didn't see any you know, those clowns that were teaching kids in the libraries and stuff, half naked, you know, cross-dressing folks. So they must be, you know, against the LGBTQ as well. I didn't see Islam there. I didn't see anybody worshiping. They must be anti-Islamic because, you know, you can't sing, you know, hallelujah. How dare you sing hallelujah? You must be anti-Islamic. I still don't understand what the fuck that means. Free men on the land. I just don't get it. I don't understand what that is. Sovereign citizens is an oxymoron. I mean, it's just idiotic as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. Oh, did we see any indigenous there? Now, I really don't know what indigenous is, but I don't care to know what indigenous is. I don't care to pretend to. Yeah, we covered that. Way too many white people singing a tune that was created by a man you know, a man that would, you know, you would identify as a white man, that was, you know, a nationalist. You know, Leonard Cohen, he was awesome. He was awesome. And radical traditionalists, yeah. So just the fact that these folks can think, all right, these folks can think that they can just gather and sing a song. Um, no, that is something that would say be part of our traditions. Just folks thinking they're free to go ahead and gather, you know, spontaneously to sing a Canadian song that was written by a white man that dares to praise the Lord. So there, here, man, I think I covered everything on this traitorous document. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. Yeah, this is how crazy these. This is just how crazy that the man-child and the other fascists within that have infiltrated our public service are. So.